All right, we are 1 week away from the closing of the trade window for the 2021 season. It won't open again until the first day of the league year, March 16, 2022. So how about some trades we would love to see before the trade deadline? These are not predictions. These are not reports. We believe Deshaun Watson is going to be traded from the Texans at some point in the course of the next week. These are just ones we'd like to see. And, of course, when they get flagged, it means they never happen. So let's go ahead and put the kibosh on 6 trades by saying we'd like to see them happen. Charean, you're up first.
Well, Brandon Cooks knows all about trades, right? He went from the Saints to the Patriots for a first-rounder. He went from the Patriots to the Rams for a first-rounder. He went from the Rams to the Texans for a second-rounder, so his price seems to be going down. You look at a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, Mike, and what they're doing on offense, which is struggling a little bit, and I think they're a better team, or were a better team offensively when they had Sammy Watkins there as that third receiver. Now, I know that Sammy Watkins missed most of last year, but I still think they were better when they had him. So why not Brandon Cooks for a second-rounder to the Chiefs? I just think that would help improve that Chiefs offense. He's 5th in the NFL with 45 catches, 502 yards, and a touchdown, playing mostly, by the way, with Davis Mills. If he can do that with Davis Mills, imagine what he can do with Patrick Mahomes, Mike.
And it would be fitting to see Brandon Cooks get traded somewhere else because he has been kind of hot potatoed around the NFL during the 8 seasons he's been in it. And the Chiefs clearly have that need. They picked up Josh Gordon. Patrick Mahomes was so excited about Josh Gordon. Josh Gordon hasn't done much of anything for the Chiefs so far. Yeah. I'm going to stay at the receiver position because this is one I've been keeping an eye on, which means it's not going to happen. Odell Beckham Jr. from the Browns to the Green Bay Packers, who could really use him Thursday night. If they're going to do it, now's the time to do it. Get OBJ on board, and he will have had his full week of rest because they played last Thursday night. He has that shoulder injury. But assuming, and obviously Devontae Adams will be back at some point, but Adams and OBJ with Aaron Rodgers, are you kidding me? What an offense that would be if they can get the ball to him. I mean, that's the problem with the Browns. He's getting open. He just doesn't get the ball the way he should. And he's been very good about not complaining. But my guess is deep down he'd like to go to another team where, number one, he thinks he can win, but number two, he thinks he can do more to be part of the effort to win. The Packers, to me, would be a perfect place, which means it'll never happen. Charean, what else do you have on your list?
On my list, my next one is Marlon Mack. I mean, he's requested a trade, so we think he probably will get traded, or I would expect him to get traded. And you look at a team like the Ravens. We know they had all those injuries that they had at the running back positions. He's buried on the Colts depth chart. He's requested that trade. Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Heinz are their running backs. But in his career, Mike, he's averaged 4.4 yards per carry. He's been really good carrying the ball. He had 1,000 yards just in 2019. Lamar Jackson is the Ravens' leading rusher. I think they need another running back. If you pair him with Latavius Murray, I think that gives them a good 1-2 punch because they're relying on all those old guys, the Le'Veon Bells and Devontae Freemans and all those guys who just haven't gotten it done. I think Marlon Mack, at his age, still has something left in the tank. They have 5 fourth-round picks, so no fifth-rounder, so they could trade a fourth-round pick and get Marlon Mack, and maybe get another pick in return, too.
Did you mention Naheem Heinz simply so that I would then be able to compare him to Jackie Smith for the drop that he had the other night that caused me to text to our PFT group that Jackie Smith says, wow, why'd he drop that pass? Way back to Super Bowl 13. Look it up, kids. You'll enjoy it. Charean didn't enjoy it in real time because it may have contributed to the Cowboys not winning Super Bowl 13. 35-31, that was the most exciting Super Bowl of all of them to that point. To have that kind of a score and that kind of a back-and-forth game, it was great.
Okay, trivia question for you. Do you know who recovered the onside kick? Cowboys onside kick. Do you know who recovered it?
I'll just say Hollywood Henderson for the Steelers. I don't remember.
For the Steelers. Tony Dungy recovered the onside kick. I don't even
remember that. I don't remember an onside kick. Wow.
I'm pretty sure that was the Super Bowl he recovered. I'm pretty sure. Don't hold me to it, but I'm pretty sure Tony Dungy recovered the onside kick.
I don't doubt you. It was a long time ago, and my memory's starting to fade. All right, here's another one that I like, which will never happen. And we've been talking about it and writing about it, but Russell Wilson clearly wanted out. He can say whatever he wants after the fact. They were sending the messages that he wanted out. He wasn't happy with his situation. He wants to be legendary and iconic. He said so himself to Laura Oakman of Fox earlier this year. The team is keeping him from being the level of player that he wants to be, to have the legacy that he wants. And the Seahawks stink this year. They're 2-5. Now, one of the reasons is he got injured. But I assume he's going to ask for a trade after the season. They're not going to turn this thing around and get close to the Super Bowl. They haven't been to the NFC Championship since 2014. So if he's going to ask after the season, why not? Why not make a run now? And the Saints, wouldn't the Saints be interested if they could get Russell Wilson right now? I mean, all due respect to Jameis Winston, there's just something not there. He's not clicking the way that Sean Payton needs to be clicking with the quarterback, and I think Russell Wilson would. And I think he'd run the offense pretty much the same way Drew Brees did, with the prettiest deep ball in the NFL on top of it. Or the Browns, Ohio native, at least born in Ohio. I don't know where he grew up. I think he moved around a little bit. I think Virginia is where he grew up, but Ohio is where he was born. That would be something if he would end up with the Browns because, hey, frankly, the quarterback position is what's holding the Browns back from being a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion. I think you'd agree with me, Charean. So, again, another one that I would love to see happen that I don't think will happen, but it's fun to think about it. And we'll never know for sure, but I'd suspect that at some point Mark Rodgers, Russell Wilson's agent, makes a phone call this week just to say, hey, you know, if you're thinking about it, maybe now is the time to do it. But I can't imagine they would do it.
Yeah, I can't imagine they do it either. But, Mike, he's got to miss one more game, and then they have their bye week, and then he could potentially come back that next week. They're going to be out of it essentially by then. I know we have 17 games, but let's be realistic. The Seahawks are not going to the Super Bowl, which is what he wants. They're 3-5 in the postseason since those back-to-back Super Bowls. This is a team not headed in the right direction, and they're missing draft picks, by the way. So maybe it's time that they blow this thing up and start over by trying to get draft picks out of Russell Wilson. They can get a ton of draft picks if they trade Russell Wilson. So yeah, I'm not going to be surprised if they at least agent makes a phone call to the Seahawks and said, hey, if you're thinking about it, we've heard this before, here's the teams that Russell would approve a trade to.
And the Saints was one of the 4 teams on the list before the season. And right now, the Bears, Raiders, and Cowboys, the other 3, they're not in a position to do it. The Saints probably would be, and maybe the Saints will be where he ends up after the season. Maybe it'll be Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson playing for the Saints after 2021. All right, give me another one, Charean.
Well, we know the Buccaneers like adding big-name players. There's a guy in Denver that's really buried on the depth chart who's a big name, and that's Kyle Fuller. But since Ronald Darby came back, he's not seeing the field. He had only 2 defensive snaps the other day. It's been Darby and Pat Surtain and Bryce Callahan in the nickel. He's not playing. He could help the Buccaneers. I know they've got some of those cornerbacks are going to be coming back off their injuries, but you can never have enough cornerbacks, as the Buccaneers have found out. They've been all in the last 2 years to win this thing. I think they need still some cornerback help. In my mind, he's better than Richard Sherman. I would go make this trade for Kyle Fuller and go all in again.
And that makes a ton of sense, especially because he has fallen down the depth chart dramatically in Denver. Although hasn't Denver made a couple of trades recently, like Stephen Weatherly, and they got a linebacker from the Rams. It's like, what do they think is going on here? What do they think they're going to do? They're not going to suddenly become contenders, but maybe the way they look at it, they're not that far away from the 7th seed, and they're not ready to give up. And Vic Fangio, he knows his future's riding on whether or not they can turn this thing around. So maybe he was lobbying for the pieces that he'll need to try to turn it in the right direction. Last one for me is Eric Ebron, who has diminished in Pittsburgh on the depth chart there. Pat Freiermuth, the rookie, has gotten more reps, and Ebron recently talked about it. And I look at the Rams, and they're always looking to add people. And I know they have Tyler Higbee, but they lost Gerald Everett in free agency, and Higbee's only got 27 catches for 248 yards and a couple of touchdowns so far this season. Ebron's a guy who has performed well in spurts in his career. And if he's for some reason available, the Rams seem to be in on everyone. It wouldn't surprise me if they try to get the guy who the Lions took back in 2013 when Aaron Donald and OBJ were both on the board. And I still don't know why. Was it 14 or 13? I still don't know why they took Ebron over Aaron Donald, because they had clear needs at defensive tackle because Ndamukong Suh and Nick Fairley were entering the final years of their contracts. I think it was 20. I can't remember if it was 13 or 14. Either way, it was one of the two. 2014. Thank you. It was 2014. But regardless, Ebron, a first-round pick who has had some moments. He can have some moments with the Rams, and he would be joining a team that, could be one of the teams with an inside track to make it to the Super Bowl, Charean, in the NFC.
Well, if they're looking at any position, that would be a position for the Rams to shore up for sure. And if you got him with those receivers, look out. They'd be hard to stop on offense. And I know we say that about a lot of teams. We say about the Buccaneers offense and the Cowboys offense, but they would be another one that just get another weapon added to already a bunch of weapons that Matthew Stafford has at his disposal.
And I didn't even think of this, but it reunites him with Stafford. I didn't even think of that.
That's
right.
So
it's all the more reason for the Rams to get Eric Ebron, assuming, because we always assume that if there was a past working relationship between two players or a player and a coach or a couple of coaches that they want to work together again. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they reach their lifetime limit, as Charean has with me. Like if at some point down the road we're floating around in different spots, like, oh, maybe they'll work together again. They work together past. Charean would say, no, I think I've had enough of that guy.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.